Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the RotoBaller Radio Waiver Wire Series. I'm your host, Anthony Aniano, as we take an early look at your fantasy football waiver wire for Week 13 of the fantasy football season. Now, the good news, no bye weeks in Week 13. Everybody's playing, and it starts on Thursday, Thanksgiving Day, with three matchups Thursday afternoon. Bears at the Lions, the New York Giants at the Dallas Cowboys, as well as the Miami Dolphins at the Green Bay Packers. And then the Friday game, the newest innovation here by the NFL, I think it started last year, Las Vegas Raiders at the Kansas City Chiefs. And then everybody else goes Sunday and Monday night next week. Injuries to be concerned about with Week 12. Sam Darnold, Baker Mayfield left the games temporarily at quarterback, but did come back into the action. Who knows what happens with Brock Purdy in Week 13. Running backs, David Montgomery left with a shoulder injury, but he's already saying he'll be good to go on Thanksgiving Day. And the Washington Commanders did get beat up. Brian Robinson with an ankle and Austin Eckler with a head injury. Josh Downs left the game for the Colts with a shoulder, and Jatavian Sanders with a neck injury left the game, went to the hospital. Good news at the time of this recording, was released from the hospital and headed back with Carolina. All right, as we know, full disclosure, recording this before the Sunday and Monday night matchups. Roster percentages are Yahoo roster percentages as of today. So, quarterback, you should be stable. You have everybody, no major concerns. But if you're looking for something, Cooper Rush has played okay of late, played well in the upset over the Washington Commanders. He's available in 95% of leagues. He threw for 247 yards and 2 touchdowns, 22 fantasy points. And really the only reason I mention him is that matchup against the New York Giants, and frankly a team that just looked like it quit on Sunday against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Baker Mayfield and that Tampa offense had their way with him. Rico Dowdle will be in lineups based on the way Tampa ran the ball, and Cooper Rush, maybe in a 2 QB league, could be a viable option. Running backs, the top running back ad of the week is Jeremy McNichols of the Washington Commanders. Not that he did much on the field. 3 carries, 22 yards, and he's available in 99% of leagues. Goes up against Tennessee next in Week 13, but he would be next in line if Brian Robinson and Austin Eckler are unable to go a week from today, next Sunday, against the Tennessee Titans. Amir Abdullah is available in about 76% of leagues, rostered in 24%. I mentioned him last week due to the concerns to Zamir White and Alexander Madison. And Abdullah cashed in again this week with a 17.5 point performance in PPR formats. Didn't run great, 8 for 28. It's never been his strength. His strength has always been catching the ball out of the backfield, and he did that again. 5 catches on 6 targets, 37 yards, and the second week in a row got in the end zone. Tough matchup for any Raiders running back Friday, though, against the Kansas City Chiefs. As far as wide receiver goes, some deep dive players are available. David Moore of the Carolina Panthers, and Bryce Young's been great since his return. 2 victories, went tooth and nail, went toe-to-toe with the Kansas City Chiefs, just fell short at the end. But David Moore, who's out there available in every league, 6 catches, 81 yards, 1 touchdown. He was targeted 10 times by Bryce Young. This is a byproduct of Deontay Johnson being traded away by Carolina. Since then, David Moore has 18 targets over his last 3 games. Finished with 20.1 fantasy points. Carolina, in my opinion, a winnable matchup next week against the Tampa Bay Bucs. Noah Brown of the Washington Commanders, 10% rostered. He's emerged as the wide receiver 2 next to Terry McLaurin there in Washington. McLaurin made the big play at the end, but Noah Brown was the consistent target for Jaden Daniels with 10 targets, 6 catches, 71 yards, 13.1 fantasy points. Washington struggling, needs a victory against Tennessee next week. And then finally, Devon Vile of the Denver Broncos. Again, may have mispronounced the last name. Not my strong suit, I'll admit it. But he's available in 95% of leagues for the Denver Broncos and becoming a favorite of Bo Nix. This week, 6 catches, 80 yards, targeted 9 times, 14 fantasy points. He's now got 3 straight games of 10 or more fantasy points in a PPR format. Over those 3 games, 18 targets. Denver against the Cleveland Browns next week. And finally, at the tight end position, 2 tight ends to be mindful of. I didn't mention them last week because I thought the 2 touchdowns were a fluke, but I gotta mention Noah Gray this week. He's got 4 touchdowns in his last 2 games. He is becoming a red zone target for Patrick Mahomes. This week, 4 catches, 66 yards, 2 touchdowns on 4 targets. It's available in 96% of leagues. Some would say you're chasing last week's points, but they would have said the same thing to me this week. Noah Gray, if you're in desperate need of tight end help, 96% available, 22.6 fantasy points this week, goes against the Raiders on Friday. And Luke Schoonmaker of the Dallas Cowboys, with Jake Ferguson out. Schoonmaker emerged this week, had a nice game, 3 catches, 55 yards, and a touchdown on 4 targets, 14.5 fantasy points. As long as Ferguson is out, Schoonmaker is in the conversation as a viable option for Cooper Rush. 9 catches, 111 yards, and a touchdown over the last 2 games on 14 targets, 26 total fantasy points over those last 2 games. Dallas Thanksgiving against the New York Giants. So to recap, my top Week 13 ads. If you're desperate for a quarterback, take a look at Cooper Rush of the Dallas Cowboys. Running backs, Jeremy McNichols and Amir Abdullah. Wide receivers, David Moore of Carolina, Noah Brown of Washington, and Devon Vile of the Denver Broncos. And at tight end, Noah Gray of the Kansas City Chiefs and Luke Schoonmaker of the Dallas Cowboys. Folks, don't forget, head over to RotoBaller.com. Check out everything we have there, the main page, the premium package, you name it. RotoBaller.com has you covered. Sign up with the promotional code ACES for any of our premium passes. Like and subscribe right here to the RotoBaller YouTube channel, and download the RotoBaller app. It's completely free. Everything online, right there in the palm of your hand. Whether it's sports betting, DFS, or season-long formats, RotoBaller.com has you covered. Give me a follow on X at @Aniano Fantasy, and we'll see you next time right here on RotoBaller Radio.